G'day gamers, we got another community dev stream.
You're never too young to have a Vietnam flashback.
PTB, the T stands for testing.
For the syringe, extending to help the end earlier. I mean, I'm glad that they let
Thought you'd like to know that.
You know, that's cool.
They went over a bunch of stuff like 2v8 information, the bone chill information, community skins.
Oh my god, who the hell cares?
Let's be honest, 99% of you are here for the changes from the PTB, so let's just start with that. First things first, we're going to start with Eric, who you might remember from such classics.
PTB, the T stands for testing. What we want to do is test it. We want to get your feedback with hands-on, not just based on the information. We really are testing these features in the next PTB. Don't start being really upset that this is already in the game and I hate it.
Well, he did apologize for coming across as condescending in the last stream. I'll just play what he said for those of you who haven't seen it yet, rather than paraphrasing him, so you know exactly what he said.
I did want to say, so I want to say something at the top of this segment, because last show I said a lot of things. Well, I said a lot of things, but I said the same thing a lot of times, that I really wanted people to test that PTB. People found that condescending, and it was not at all the intention. I talked about this on Twitter yesterday. Truly, 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 I mean this. When I say, please test that, it's not, hey, go find bugs for us because we're not able to, because I know that's what people were going to. It's really that without the feedback of our players getting hands-on, because we see your feedback before it's there, but with your hands-on, that's where our team, the community team, can be best equipped to talk to the various internal teams when we make decisions about what goes live in the game. So I'm really sorry if it came across as condescending. I truly didn't mean it that way. I'm a big believer in PTBs or PTS, depending on the type of game you play, to inform the changes that actually go live to the game. And I know there's a track record that people have pulled on, like, well, but you've done this in the past, and I totally get it. But I just wanted to say that up front, because to me, even if you ever meet me in person, it's probably the first thing I'll tell you about is I'm such a believer in PTB as a tool for us to make what goes live in the game the best it can possibly be. So that's my moment of addressing that at the top of the show.
Look, I appreciate an apology, but the fact of the matter is, this is like the 6th apology from behavior in the past 6 months. It's getting a little tiring. If you have to apologize this many times, then they start to mean nothing, because when you're truly sorry, you see behavioral changes. No pun intended. As for your reasoning, literally nobody on the planet is arguing a PTB isn't good in theory. They are. But as I've said in previous videos and shown in dedicated videos, the reason people hate you saying this is because you just ignore the PTB feedback, and the changes don't need feedback in order to know that they're going to be terrible. This very PTB had one-to-one mechanics we have already tested in the Krasu PTB and said that they were bad, like the slugging changes, extended endurance off the hook, elusive combined with the extended endurance, that kind of thing. So you can't come along and say that you need it for feedback when you just ignore all of the feedback. I want to make it clear, I'm not blaming Eric for this. He's the community manager. He doesn't do balance changes or ignore the feedback. Well, he might ignore the feedback, but he's not the one who's ignoring it by not implementing it. However, you've got to read the room, man, because you didn't come across as condescending. You were condescending. As somebody who's loved Sadako and played her through 9 different versions between live and PTB builds, every single time you've ignored all feedback from any Sadako player anyone gave and left her in a right state for nearly 2 years now. You've ignored base kit unbreakable being a terrible idea 3 separate times now. You've ignored endurance as an anti-tunnel effect being used aggressively more times than I care to remember, and you've done it again with this next patch, which I'll get onto in a little bit. This isn't even mentioning how changes in various PTBs are so astronomically dogshit. We don't even need to test them to know that they're going to be bad. They're just obviously terrible to anyone who's played the game for longer than 5 minutes. For example, we don't need to test changes like giving survivors base kit unbreakable, which is already a meta perk, because they've literally made themselves unhookable. That's obviously going to be a dogshit change. Blocking generators for the rest of the trial, permanently increasing gen speeds, giving people 30 seconds of endurance and haste off the hook, while making it so you can't track them. All of these things should be common sense to not add into the game. It's like giving the nurse 7 blinks on the PCB and halving her fatigue, and then saying, well, you need to test it first to know if it's going to be bad. It's obviously going to be bad, and that's exactly what pretty much all the changes have been on the PTB to stop these mechanics. What we need you guys to do is actually think before you push a change to the PTB. We shouldn't have to be the ones to tell you these changes are dog shit. You should already know they're going to be bad. The fact that you don't understand how bad some of these changes are is what's really worrying.
You fucked up.
Anyway, let's move on to what's going live or not on the big 3 of camping, tunneling, and slugging. So, the camping changes will be going live with adjustments.
I mean, it's alright.
The slugging reduction won't be going live. And apparently the anti-tunnel won't be going live.
No.
Now, the anti-tunnel revert is partially a lie, so we're going to start with that one. All of the PTB changes have been reverted, so elusive isn't in the game, you don't get your 30 seconds of haste and endurance off the hook, and killers don't get their fresh hook bloodlust. But they increased the base kit endurance and haste by 5 seconds for all survivors.
Why?
Apparently Behaviour still haven't gotten the memo that extended endurance gets used aggressively, because not only have they increased it by 50% off the hook, but they also haven't adjusted borrow time, which increases that by another 10 seconds. No! Meaning that you can give every single survivor you unhook 25 seconds of endurance and haste. You know, the thing they reverted from the PTB because it was dumb.
I have no idea what is going on.
Also, it doesn't disable in the endgame. This is a friendly reminder that the bloodlust bonus that killers got for fresh hooks in the PTB that was basically useless throughout the entire game got disabled in the endgame because Behaviour thought it was too strong. Yet 25 seconds of haste and endurance, that's just fine guys. For God's sake Behaviour, stop giving endurance to things. It's painfully obvious that you don't understand the ramifications of endurance and you keep ruining the gameplay experience by just slapping it on everything without thinking. I'll help you out Behaviour with some good, healthy anti-tunnel. The elusive effect is actually the answer. It is the best anti-tunnel you've ever made. It doesn't guarantee you get away for doing nothing, you have to put in some effort and it doesn't make you in. Since it doesn't make you in, it can't be used to aggressively body block. The problem with elusive is it stacks with pre-existing anti-tunnel, so people use their pre-existing anti-tunnel aggressively and then they escape with elusive for free, making the aggressive anti-tunnel even stronger. A quick fix for this would be to disable elusive if you have an anti-tunnel perk or effect on you. That way, it can't be combined and also has the added bonus of diversifying the perk pool a bit because you won't be as inclined to always run an anti-tunnel perk. Let's move on to the other changes very quickly. Anti-camp has had its range reduced back to 16 meters, a great change. They've also kept the UI showing you how far the anti-camp meter's gone along, another good change. However, they've kept the changes to how it ramps up. This is the only one that worries me a bit, we'll have to see how it plays, but overall, pretty good changes here. And the anti-slug changes, thankfully, have been completely reverted. So all in all, it's still a net negative. Survivors have still been buffed quite a lot at a time where killer is absolutely miserable to play right now, so Dead by S tier isn't going anywhere. Let's move on. They're going to improve the new player experience apparently. Now here's a tip Behaviour from somebody who still remembers the new player experience because I've only been playing for about 3 years. Maybe tell the new players about the million mechanics you've added to the game. It took me 4 months to realise endurance was a thing on killer because you just don't explain it anywhere in any tutorials and there is no visuals to tell you what just happened. In fact, the only way that I knew it was a mechanic is by watching some gameplay on YouTube and someone mentioned it and then I looked up dead hard. You shouldn't have to jump through this many hoops to know about a core mechanic, and that goes for all the other hidden mechanics like anti-camp, 8-gen kick limits and that kind of thing. You've added way too many mechanics and you haven't explained it to anybody, so maybe try and tell the player base that those things exist. That would be nice. We shouldn't have to have a PhD in DBD patch notes to understand core mechanics. Next up, they talked about the pallet density changes, so let's see what they said, shall we?
Okay, pallets.
Density. And we've done a lot of discussion with you on the forums and Reddit, and thank you so much for all the detailed feedback, the screenshots, everything that you've provided. That has really, really helped. We're not doing a full revert of the pallet density.
Oh no! Oh shit!
We've identified specific areas, some really strong God loops, Asylum. We're looking at you because that one was a big one.
I'll try and be calm while explaining this. The entire pallet update was a fundamental failure Behaviour. This isn't a case of you need to change a couple of maps. Yeah, some maps are worse than others like Asylum, like Macmillan, but just because those maps are actually unplayable, it doesn't offset the fact that all the map changes are really bad. This change made 80% of the maps extremely survivor-sided. Trying to play any weaker killer at the moment is beyond miserable. Even the maps that really needed changes like Haddonfield, you've gone way overboard on by by carpet bombing mid with in some cases 10 safe pallets. The fact is, most of the maps you changed didn't even need to be adjusted. They were fine, and now you're going one by one to adjust maps when in reality, you should have just reverted the changes and then separately addressed those problematic maps. You're creating more work for yourselves because now we need to take screenshots, give feedback on every single map and every single tile in those maps, and then you need to go through all of that on maps that were completely fine to begin with. All you needed to do was revert the changes, kill switch Haddonfield and Vecna's map, and then in the next PTP, put more pallets on those maps and sprinkle a couple behavior on some of the Coldwind maps and call it a day. I don't know why you're wasting so many resources on a failed idea. The next thing I want to talk about is the Syringe Change. So on the PTP, they made it so it instantly resets exhaustion. No! They haven't adjusted it from the PTP.
Oh, no.
So the syringe has literally no counterplay now, which actually buffs it. So again, ignored PTB feedback. The last things I want to talk about are some of the perk changes. They reverted Furtive Chase, so that perk isn't dead. Babysitter and Off the Record has been reverted as well. Wicked and Breakdown will be reverted, but in 2 patches, and Wicked is kill switched until then to prevent instantly healing off the hook in basement. And that's about it, guys. Sorry this one isn't edited as much, but I wanted to try and get through as much information as I could. Anyway, that's all from me, gamers, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.